verse 32.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given into another people, and thine eyes shall look and fill with longing for them all the day long. And there shall be no might in thine hand.
You're going to have no power. They're going to take your children, they're going to sell them. Ain't nothing you can do about it. And that's what happened to us in slavery. But verse 36.
The Lord shall bring thee and thy king which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. And there shalt thou serve other gods, wood and stone.
So we had kings, we had princes, we had all that other nations have, and they were out in slavery with us. Verse 37.
And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whither the Lord shall lead thee.
So we have all these names. It take me all day to get through them, so I'm not even going to bother with them. We have so many racial epithets. Verse 38.
Thou shalt carry much seed out into the field, and shalt gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it.
So you working hard, working really hard, and nothing is coming forth from your work, from your labors. As a people, that's how we are. Go ahead.
Thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shalt neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. Thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coasts, but thine shall not anoint thyself with the oil.
You're not going to benefit. Go ahead.
For thine olive shall cast its fruit.
Go ahead.
Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity.
Skip down to verse 43.
The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail.
Right, and that's how our communities are. People will come amongst us. First of all, we so powerless in these are not even communities. We just living next to each other and confined to one area because we can't get enough money to move away from one another because we don't know how to live together. But the stranger will come in. No matter who it is. It could be so-called Judean. It could be the Korean. It could be the Arab. It could be the Mexican. And they will come in your community and set up shop. They will set up businesses, and you will entertain that business. And then what happens when you give them all your money? Do they put that back in the community? No, they take your money out and they go to their own community and build it up. There is no way that you would be allowed to go in their community and do anything. You could barely walk around. Why are you over here? The police will pull you over. But we let a stranger come in and get up high. And so they are the business owners. And then you go in their store and they talk down to you. Talk to you like you less than. Like you a dog. And they selling you inferior product at high cost. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. Let me get this on correct. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Verse 45 reads, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. They came upon us because of our disobedience, and they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever. So when you see who this happened to, you know that that's the chosen people of God. Because the curse is on them as a sign. Let's skip down to 63. See, some basic things are being ignored. People talk about the Holocaust. That's another thing. Go to a school and ask any black child in the school about the Holocaust, and they will tell you all about the Holocaust. They will tell you all about Anne Frank. Then you ask them, what's the transatlantic slave trade? Huh? What's that? Who is Nat Turner? I don't know who that is. Who is Gabriel Prosser? Then Mark Vesey. Who is Marcus Garvey? I don't know what you're talking about. What was our Holocaust? I don't know. Who's Jim Crow? I don't know. They might know who Martin Luther King is, but I'm telling you now, they don't understand King. We are in a terrible condition. Verse 63. When you there, go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, that as the Lord rejoice over you to do you good, and to multiply you, So the Lord will rejoice over you to destroy you and to bring you to naught. And you shall be plucked from off the land whither thou goest to possess it.
So your final end. We was in and out of captivity, but this is talking about the final end. That we were going to be dispersed worldwide. Verse 64.
And the Lord shall gather thee among all people.
So it's going to scatter you, us, among all people. Go ahead.
From the one end of the earth even to the other. And there shalt thou serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone.
And it's true, we're not just serving other gods. We're serving these false gods more than anybody else. We were given this false religion in slavery. And we are more connected to it than the people who gave it to us. The people who gave it to us don't even believe the stuff they spouting out, because if they did, they wouldn't be treating other people like they treat them. But we really believe in the falsehood that we were given in slavery. It made us good slaves. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from the one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods. And that's what we're doing, serving these other gods of wood and stone. Not just in Christianity, man, we are in every religion, and will be the most devout. And when you say, hey, this is your history, we don't want to hear that. Verse 65.
And among these nations shalt thou find leave. Neither shall the sole of thy foot have rest.
Go ahead.
But the Lord shall give thee there a trembling heart and failing of eye and sorrow of mind.
So you're going to have fear. And that's what we do. We have fear in this nation. Even if you're not breaking the law, the police run up behind you and you're fearful. You haven't done anything. Let it be somebody else, man. They will tell them, what's your badge number? Yes, sir. No, sir, but we'll kill another one of us, though. But keep reading.
And thy life shall hang in doubt before thee, and thou shalt fear day and night, and shall have none assurance of thy life.
None assurance of their life. People are like, well, that's not really going on today. Do you know they still lynching people? You ain't hearing nothing about it, but they talking about they lynching people in Delaware recently. Trying to lynch people. In the morning thou shalt say what God will even, and at even thou shalt say what God will morning, for the fear of thine heart, wherewith thou shalt fear, for the sight of thine eyes which thou shalt see. And again, they are totally ignoring things. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships. What does that mean? Egypt represents the house of bondage. It represents slavery, because that was our first captivity. For 430 years we served in Egypt. He says, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you, meaning nobody is going to redeem you as a people. Nobody's going to redeem you as a people. So let's look at the next reference. It says evidence of curses. Evidence of curses. This is, I believe, the third page. It says reference 5. So it says, I didn't pick out all of them, I just picked out some. It says, thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. Okay? So let's read about what happened to us in slavery. This is from slavery and the domestic slave trade in the United States. Now this is a conversation going on. This is a kind of a conversation between a slave trader and this man is interviewing him. He says, Andrew says, do you buy the wife without the husband? Slave trader. Yes. So this is the man that wrote this. He asked, do you buy the wife without the husband? The slave trader says, yes, very often and frequently too. They sell me the mother while they keep the children. I had often known them take away the infant from his mother's breast and keep it while they sold her. See, you cannot dehumanize people in this manner and act like a beast if you see the people in any other way but less than human and subhuman. And that's why they had to whitewash this. They had to use science, which they still using today, to justify oppression, because you cannot do that to a person who you think is human. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. This is from a book of People's History of Florida, 1513 through 1876. How African Seminoles women in lower class whites shaped the Sunshine State. Sam Everett of Mulberry, Florida, recalled, on this plantation were more than 100 slaves who were mated indiscriminately and without any regard for family unions. Cousin, brother, sister, they did not care, and neither did you have a choice. If their master thought that a certain man and woman might have a strong, healthy offspring, he forced them to have sexual relations, even though they were married to other slaves, because we were a mere commodity. Just how they would keep books, and they were on a farm or plantation, and they had chickens, check, cows, check, Negroes, check. They would have your name, not your first name, and you had their last name. How much they bought you for, how much they were going to sell you for. If there seemed to be any slight reluctance on the part of either of the unfortunate, one big gem will make them consummate this relationship in his presence. No, y'all going to do what I told y'all to do, like animals. Breeding. You're going to do it like I say in front of me, with the bullwhip over his shoulder. He used the same procedure if he thought a certain couple was not producing children fast enough. He enjoyed these orgies. Excuse the language, but this is what it says. Very much and often entertained his friends in this manner. Quite often he and his guests would engage in these debaucheries, choosing for themselves the prettiest of the young women. Sometimes they forced the unhappy husbands and lovers of the victims to look on. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. I don't understand how we let anybody forget this. You often hear people who call themselves Jews today say, never again. That's the kind of mentality we should have. We should understand, truly understand as much as possible what our forefathers, what our ancestors, women in particular, went through. And what happens to you when you open yourself up. Because it said, even how David, when he had got in trouble, he said, Lord, I'll be in your hands. Don't put me in the hands of man. Because you see what man will do to you. You see what man will do to you. Thou shalt betroth a wife, and another man shall lie with her. The next one says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee. And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen. And no man shall buy you, or no man gonna redeem you, get you out of that situation. Here we see a diagram, which is the Brooks slave ship. This is a slave ship. And if you can see all these specks, these are our people. And they had a diagram of how they were gonna pack us. And they would type pack us. And you sit there, not sit there, you lie there for weeks on end in your own feces. They said the smell in the hulls of the ship was like the smell of hell. That's the only way they could describe it. Here you see a picture. What are they doing? They jettison slaves. If they thought you got sick, they just throw you overboard so you wouldn't mess up the cargo. So they have stories saying that even sharks would follow the slave ships because they knew when they jettisoned them, they'd have a tasty meal. This is what we went through. I don't want to hear about nobody else's Holocaust. Like I heard an Iron Man say today, he said, me worried about other people is like me worried about a neighbor who don't have his grass cut and my house is on fire. That's how our situation is. Our house is on fire. It says, you're going to be sold as bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. You're going to be sold, but they obviously getting bought. So when he's saying buy you, nobody's going to get you out of the situation. And this is a very conservative picture. Most slaves were not dressed in all white with some nice pants and nice skirt. They just being sold like slavery wasn't that bad. No, they'll strip you naked and sell you. And look at your teeth. Like you an animal. Like you an animal. Let's go back to Deuteronomy, the 21st chapter. Because as I said, our situation is not because we are inferior, but rather because we've been cursed by God. Not in skin, but been cursed because we just simply refused to obey. And those curses are on us, and there's another sign of a cursed people. Let's read about it. There's another sign of one that is cursed by God. This is Deuteronomy 1 verse 21 and 23. And when you're there, you can go ahead, please.
His body shall not remain all night upon the tree.
You know what? Verse 22, I'm sorry. Verse 22.
And if a man have committed a sin worthy of death, and he be to be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree.
So if you hang a man on a tree, what about his body?
His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day.
So they were supposed to, if they executed that judgment, they were supposed to bury that body that day. Why?
For he that is hanged is the curse of God, that thy land be not defiled, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance.
He that is hanged is accursed of God. Jesus, who was without sin, was hanged on a tree. His passion could be likened to that of a modern day lynching. But he was hanged on a tree and he took the curse that we had coming upon himself. But he says very clearly, the curse of God hangeth on trees. Let's go to reference 6 and read something here. Because as I mentioned, when you look at who's hanging on trees, it's us. Why? Because we are cursed of God. This is an inventory, the Tuskegee Institute lynching inventory, in which they tracked lynchings from 1865 to 1965. Now understand, they did not get all lynchings. Lynchings were not reported, just like it is now. Somebody gets shot, it don't even make the news. That's how we were getting lynched in this country. It says in reference 6 on the 3rd page, from 1865 to 1965, more than 6,000 African Americans died in racial violence in the United States. This inventory includes the names of 2,400 of the African Americans who were lynched in the United States from 1865 to 1965. The inventory is necessarily incomplete. Records are scarce. Newspaper reports are scattered. The Tuskegee Institute lynching inventory began in 1882, just before the great surge of lynchings that occurred around the turn of the century. Okay? So, then it goes on to talk about Ida B. Wells, who was a strong sister, who reported, facing peril of, they were going to try to kill her. But she continued to report on lynchings that were occurring. But we were hanged on trees. Why? Because the hanged on trees are the curse of God. See, we wear that curse in every way and we ignore it. We wear it and we ignore it. Let's get back to the scriptures. Deuteronomy 32 and 1 verse. Because our situation, like I said, it's like being on fire. Even the scriptures call it that. Being on fire. We taking it out the heart. Deuteronomy 32 and verse 26. Deuteronomy 32 and verse 26. When you're there, you go ahead.
I said I would scatter them into corners. I would make the remembrance of them to cease from among men.
So he says, he's talking about his people. He said, I'm going to scatter you into slavery, and then I'm going to make the remembrance of you to cease from among men. So not only other people don't know who you are, some do. But for the most part, other people don't know who you are, and you don't even know who you are. You think about it, as bad as the indigenous people who we erroneously call Indians in this country. That's nothing. How you gonna make it? You gonna call? You not even an Indian. You call the people Indians, and it's just stick. But they had it. I mean, they faced a terrible situation. But one thing about it, they still know who they are as a people. I mean, everything was stripped from us. He put his name on us, and you know what? We didn't do what we were supposed to do. He took his name right off. He said, "You're a colored now." I said, "I will scatter them into corners. I will make the remembrance of them to cease from among men." Let's go to Psalms 83. And let's see what these men thought about this. Like I said, you have no friends. We didn't have friends back here, and we don't have friends today. Don't get it twisted. Psalms 83 and verse 1. Psalms 83 and verse 1. When you're there, you can go ahead.
Keep not thou silent, O God. Do not thy peace, and be not still, O God.
So the psalmist is praying that the Lord keep not his peace. Go ahead.
Below thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up their head.
What have they done?
They've taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones.
So they consulted against the people. They have taken crafty counsel against the people. This stuff continues even until this day. When they build jails, who do you think they taking crafty counsel to put the people in? They sitting around thinking, all right, how are we going to put these Negroes in these jails? When they want to build some high-rises right where the projects at where your mama lived and her mama lived and her mama lived, when they want to gentrify, they take crafty counsel. When they want to use eugenics, they take crafty counsel. When they just want to go upside your head, they take crafty counsel. You have no friends. But they have consulted together. It says they have said, verse 4, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. That's what they wanted, to cut us off from being a nation. And they got together and talked about it. Understand, you have no friends. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. Now who's on the list? Number one.
The tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes.
The tabernacles of Edom. Edom is the one who's calling himself the Jew today. He understands he couldn't possibly be an Israelite. How could you be? By way of Europe, by way of Edom, the tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites, who we call Arabs. It says in verse 12, it said, who said, this is what they said, and they meant, let us take ourselves the house of God in possession. Let us take the promised land. And they're the ones right now fighting over a land, and you taking sides. How you taking sides? Some of us who are deep into this false Christianity say, well, the chosen people had to have that land, and then the chosen people, I take their side. And some of us who really don't want to deal with religion, but see how they treat the Palestinians like dogs, because they are. They say, man, hey, I'm on their side. I know what it feels like to be oppressed. Well, first of all, both them groups have oppressed you. You know what was worse? Almost worse than the transatlantic slave trade? The Arab slave trade. Who said, let us take ourselves the house of God in possession? And they fighting over land and willing to die. Willing to throw a rock at a tank. Could take a pistol against somebody with a rocket launcher over some land that they feel is theirs, and we don't even think about land. You don't have freedom if you don't have land. You're not free. Let's go to Luke, the 21st chapter. Luke, the 21st chapter. So here we see a twofold prophecy. This is Luke 21 and 20. Hear the words of the Master. When you're ready, go ahead.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
Or know that destruction is at hand. So that happened before in 70 AD. He's prophesying. The Lord is prophesying of what's to come, and it's going to happen again. Jerusalem going to be surrounded by armies again. But let's skip down to verse 24, because he says something about what's going to happen to us. And when you there, go ahead.
And it shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations.
Same thing Moses said. He said, and they shall fall, talking about his people, Israel, shall fall by the edge of the sword and shall be led away captive into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles, or Europeans, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Okay, so all the way until the time of his coming. But let's go to reference 7 and read something about this, what he prophesied about, and see how we got in the situation that we in now. He said he's going to be spread all over. Because we're not just here. We all throughout the Americas. You go to Brazil. Brazil have more of us than are here. This is reference 7, the Great Roman Jewish War and African Dispersion. This first one is from Jerusalem in Bible Times by Patton, Louis Bales Patton. It says in 66 AD, the war of rebellion against the Romans broke out. And in 70 AD, the siege of the city was begun by Titus. After a long stubborn resistance which necessitated that every wall and every court of the town should be conquered separately, the city at last fell in September 70 AD. The temple and other principal buildings were burned. Titus gave orders that the city should be razed to the ground, meaning totally destroyed, except the wall enclosing Herod's palace that was left as a fortress for the Roman garrison. With this event, ancient Jerusalem came to an end. They said that was our demise. Up to this time, the life of the city had been uninterrupted in spite of all the disasters that had befallen it. And the thread of historical tradition in regard to localities had not been severed, I should say. But after this event, there was no longer any continuity with the past. Totally separated from who we are. See, Jerusalem is where our hearts should be at. That's what we should be thinking. That was our land. Alright, so it says, you got other people who that's not even their land, and they praying 3 times a day. Doing all these things, trying to get a temple, trying to do all these things, bang their head against the wall, all this stuff, and that's not even their land. African dispersion. Under the Ptolemies and Cyrenaica, northeastern Libya, had become the home of many Jews, and their numbers in this part of Africa were greatly increased by the Romans. When Emperor Vespasian deported many others increased after a rebellion against Roman rule in Palestine and the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. So now we know what happened after the war. What happened? These people, these Israelites, where'd they go? While some of them remained in coastal settlements around the Mediterranean, others migrated deep into the Great Sahara, sometimes becoming nomads, and at other times settling in towns and cities of the African interior. And that's why I said earlier, that's how we got here. Because when the transatlantic slave trade began, we were more susceptible to being captured because we were strangers. But it says, and we went all the way in those, and you still see remnants of people today who say, yeah, we Israelites. You got Ethiopians saying, yeah, we Israelites. You got Igbo Jews, Nigeria. Yeah, we Israelites all over Africa. Saying, yeah, we Israelites. We know that. We've been here. And they oppressed just like we oppressed over here. They oppressed just like we oppressed over here. Let's go to Revelation 2 and 9. Because they took counsel together, said, let us cut them off from being a nation, and then had the unmitigated gall, the audacity to take the name and say, we the chosen people. And then, if you say something, man, will have you in court, will try to ruin you, because you saying something against a lie. This is Revelation 2 and verse 9. 2 and 9. When you're there, you can go ahead.
I know that works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich.
So he says, I know that works in tribulation and poverty. So I know economically you are in turmoil. He says, but thou art rich. You rich how? You rich spiritually. Paul said, what advantage doth have the Jew much chiefly in every way, for unto him were committed the oracles of God. You only have known about all the nations of the earth. He gave us that which would lead to life. And from that we were to get our peace. We were to get our culture. When it's all said and done, we'd be on top as a people. But it says, I know that works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. What else does he know?
And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan.
And he says, I know the blasphemy, calls it blasphemy, of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. That's talking about the people that are calling themselves Jews today. This is Revelation 3 and 9. Revelation 3 and 9. And when you're ready, you go ahead.
Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but you lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee.
So that's what he's saying. He said again, he said they are the synagogue of Satan, the church of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. He said, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Let's go to reference 8. Because we were besieged and kicked out of the land, scattered abroad, taken into slavery. And then when we got into slavery, how did they continually justify it? We know spiritually speaking, the Lord's hand was in it. But how did these men justify it? Like I said, the Bible can be used as a means of liberation, or it could be used as a means of enslavement. Literally. This is Ham's curse. I put those marks there because there is no such thing as Ham's curse. It's a misnomer. But they equate it with Ham because they know Ham is the progenitor of the dark races. See, they want you to be black when it's convenient to them. They will outrightly tell you that Nimrod was black. Why? Because Nimrod was great, but he was perceived to be evil. So they say he black. He was detrimental. Let's read this something out of the Babylonian Talmud, which is the book that the people who call themselves Jews today use. And not so much, they talk about the Torah, but this is the book they follow, the Talmud. And if you ever read this, this is one of the sickest pieces of so-called religious script you ever want to read in your life. Let's see what they said about people of color in the book. It says, Ham's curse, this is reference 8. This is the last page. It says, our rabbis taught, 3 calculated on the earth, and they were all punished. Okay? They had relations on the ark and they were all punished. This is in a book. It says the dog, the raven, and Ham. Let's find out what the punishment was. The dog was doomed to be tied. The raven expectorates his seed into his mate's mouth. And Ham was smitten in his skin, cursed black. Now, first of all, understand even science today, with all this foolery, knows and understands that the first people on the planet were black. Because black is a dominant gene. Our hair like it is a dominant gene. Our skin like it is a dominant gene. Dark eyes is a dominant gene. Light skin, not saying you less than, but it's recessive. Light skin, light eyes, light hair is all recessive. And you can get every color on the earth, every people, from black. You cannot get every people from white. Scientifically, the first people on the earth had to be black. But they used this, how? It said you cursed in your skin. So the curse upon us, so they used this to further enslave us and to justify it. And they said, and it started with the Babylonian Talmud. And throughout time, it just took hold. This is the next one. This is from this book by Haynes and Curry. It says, The Biblical Justification of American Slavery. It says, yet the application of the curse to racial slavery was the product of centuries of development and ethnic and racial stereotypes. Again, you have to depict a people a certain way to enslave them. You have to depict them as less than. I give you an example. This country could not just simply go over and bomb Gaddafi in Libya. They had to make Gaddafi look like a monster. When, in actuality, Libya had the highest standard of living in all of Africa. And in actuality, you're a Libyan citizen, you go to college free. You get married, you get money. The oil we sell, everybody get a stipend. You know they had no homeless people, not one in Libya? No homeless people. Highest standard of living. He put a satellite up so African nations would not have to go through Europe to pay those millions of dollars in phone bills. He wanted to establish a bank, an African bank with no interest, no usury. He wanted to unify Africa, and he wanted to, what got him killed was he wanted to have a new dollar that was based on those tons of gold that he had. So that they would use, and it would debase the dollar. See, that's a no-no. That'll get you killed. And that's why he was killed, but they couldn't just kill him. They had to make him out to be this odd, weird killer. But who's killed more people in this country? I can think of very few. But they had to change his image So you'll sit at home and you watch the news and say, yeah, he was crazy. But they had the highest. You can't go to college here free. But so I say all that to say, that's what they did with this Ham's curse. You cursed in your skin. It says, after racial stereotype, biblical interpretation and the history of servitude. Nevertheless, by the early colonial period, a racialized version of Noah's curse had arrived in America. So it started with Edom, but it arrived in America, in the colonies. And that curse had nothing to do with color. Noah was black. We saw the images of how he looked. In fact, the writings of abolition indicate that by the 1670s, the curse of Ham was being employed as a sanction for black enslavement. Justification. By the 1830s, when Americans' anti-slavery movement became organized, vocal, and aggressive, the scriptural defense of slavery had evolved into the most elaborate and systematic statement of pro-slavery theory. Noah's curse had become a stock weapon in the arsenal of slavery's apologists, that are people who are proponents or they in favor of slavery, and references to Genesis 9 appear prominently in their productions. So they're using the Bible for what? In slavery. Again, you can use it for liberation, which is what we should be trying to use it for now, or enslavement. Let's go to Genesis 9. It's just like even Howard Thurman, who was an advisor, a mentor type. I don't even like using that word, but he was an advisor to King. He wrote the Jesus and the Disinherited. He talked about how he was an older gentleman. He talked about how his grandmother, I believe, lived in the last part of slavery. And he said that she would not read the writings of Paul. She'd be in her Bible all the time, but would not read Paul. And he asked her, why don't you read Paul? He said, because the slave master would use Paul to say, see what Paul is saying about how you should obey your master. You see, it could be used as a liberating force or an enslaving. So let's read Genesis. Can't let anybody tell you your history. We let other people tell us, first of all, we're not Hamitic. But we let other people tell us that being black was a curse. Being black is beautiful for real. Genesis 9 and verse 20. And when you're there, you can go ahead.
And Noah began to be a husband, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent.
Okay, so now this is Noah, and this is after the flood. He saw that carnage and said, I need a drink. And he was uncovered within his tent. Now there's several interpretations of this, but it could have been that his wife was talking about your covering is talking about your wife. It could be, verse 22.
And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon both their shoulders and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father.
So Shem and Japheth, they covered the nakedness of their father. But verse 24.
And Noah woke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brother. Okay, so Noah woke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done unto him. It's just like what Reuben did to Jacob. He laid one of his concubines. Okay? So it could be that situation. And he said, Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren. Now, question, why did they say it's Ham's curse when obviously Canaan is the one that's cursed? Because Ham is the progenitor of the dark races. They understand that. They don't want to argue that. So they connect the curse to all people of color. Like they all the same and say all y'all are to be servants. Okay? Did you finish that? Verse 26.
Thank you.
And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant.
So that's how they used it to justify enslavement. Justify calling us 3/5 of the human being. Justify breeding us on breeding farms. Literal breeding farms like you breed animals. That's how they justify that. This is Deuteronomy 4 and 26. Because one thing about the God we serve, he is merciful. He is merciful. And after all we've been through, he's going to be the one that's going to redeem us. This is Deuteronomy 4:26. Deuteronomy, and Moses tells us this in Deuteronomy prior to us even going into the promised land. When you there, go ahead.
I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day. And ye shall soon utterly perish from off the land until ye go over Jordan to possess it. Ye shall not prolong your days upon it, but shall utterly be destroyed.
He says, so you're going to go over Jordan. You're going to go over Jordan, but you're not going to last too long. He said, you're going to be destroyed. Go ahead. And
the Lord shall scatter you among the nations. And ye shall be left few in number among the heathen, but the Lord shall lead.
And you're going to be scattered among the nations. 13, 14% of the population like we are now. Among the heathen, people that don't know God. Go ahead.
And there shall ye serve gods, the work of man's hands, wood and stones, which neither see nor hear, nor eat nor smell.
And that's what we do. Serve these false gods. Gods that are no gods. But what?
But if from thence thou shalt seek the Lord thy God.
But if from thence thou shalt seek the Lord thy God. So if we seek God, even in our terrible condition right now, go ahead.
Thou shalt find him.
We'll find him if we seek him. It's real simple. We'll find him if we seek him. Just like in the days of Nehemiah, he sought him and they found him. Just like in the days of Josiah, they found the book of the law. And the king rent his clothes. He tore his clothes because he knew we were in trouble. The knowledge of the laws, the knowledge of sin. He knew we had transgressed God's law. And what did? They dusted that book off. And he had a revival among the people. And that's what we need today. A spiritual revival amongst our people. It said, but if from this thou shalt seek the Lord thy God, thou shalt find him. And thou shalt seek him with all thy heart and with all thy soul. Go ahead.
But thou art in tribulation, and all these things are come upon thee.
Even when?
Even in the latter day.
Even in the time we living in right now. Go ahead.
If thou turn to the Lord thy God, and shall be obedient unto his voice. For the Lord thy God is a merciful God.
He is merciful. Go ahead.
He will not forsake thee, neither destroy thee, neither forget the covenant of thy fathers which he has sworn.
Because he wants us to serve him. Let's go to Job. Let's go to Job. I remember I told a co-worker, we were talking, you know, I guess he would consider himself as liberal to a degree. Caucasian fellow. We used to talk all the time, you know, about history because we were both into history and different things. He was a history teacher. And, you know, he was talking about, we got to talking about the Bible, and I got to talking about how we got God's chosen people, we were enslaved, and then we started talking about cost. Like, you know, he said, somebody will have to pay for that. I said, yeah, people are going to have to pay for that. And he just looked at me with this fearful look, because there's going to be a day of reckoning. You cannot believe that after all that's happened, you don't have to pay for it. That's not how things. You reap what you sow in all things. That's a biblical principle. That's also just a life principle. But Job 3 and verse 1. When you there, go ahead.
For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem.
So the Lord is the one that's going to restore his people. Go ahead.
I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they've scattered among the nations and parted my land.
You took crafty counsel, you did all these things, but the Lord said, I'm going to gather all nations into the valley of Jehoshaphat, or the valley where Jehovah will judge. That's what that means. He says, and I'm doing it for my heritage Israel, whom you scattered among the nations. Another place says, you forwarded the affliction. But verse 3.
And they've cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for an harlot, and sold a girl for wine that they might drink.
Sold us like we were mere commodity. Look what you've done to my people. You're going to pay. Verse 4.
Yea, and what have ye to do with me, or Tyre and Sidon, and all the coast of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense? And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head.
Skip down to verse 6.
The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye may remove them far from their borders.
Right, you sold them to the Greeks. Go ahead.
Verse 15. I'm sorry. Verse 7. Behold, I will rise them up out of the place where ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head.
And he says, and I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah. Now we won't treat them like they treated us, but they're going to be sold. And they shall sell them to the Sabians, to a people far off, for the Lord has spoken it. Then he says something to the Gentiles, the sons of Japheth, who have basically, to their own detriment, in many ways, have took solace and comfort in what they've done, as if that's the way things are, that's the way it should be. See, one thing about you dehumanizing an individual, you have to be dehumanized yourself. Verse 9 says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. Prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Skip down to verse 15. So we know what time frame this is.
The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. The Lord also shall roar out of Zion, and utter his voice from Jerusalem. And the heavens and the earth shall shake. But the Lord will be the hope of his people, and the strength of the children of Israel.
Then he's going to be our strength again. Then he's going to be our strength again. He says, so shall you know that I am the Lord your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, the city of peace. And there shall no strangers pass through her anymore, because the people are going to be there. Let's go to Matthew. Because Jesus tells us this, that he's going to gather us from all the nations. But as we get closer to his coming, he said we're going to turn to him. Even when you read Malachi, the 4th chapter, it talks about how one was coming in the spirit of Elijah. And then when you read in other places, it's talking about John the Baptist. Yeah, but it's talking about that's going to happen again. Turning the people back to God. He came to prepare people for the way for people for the Lord. That's what's going to happen again. In that same spirit. This is Matthew the 24th chapter and verse 29. When you're there, go ahead.
Immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be dark, and the moon shall not give her a light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory.
So we know we're talking about that same time under the 6th seal, that we see immediately after the tribulation of those days, shall the sun be dark, and the moon shall not give a light, and the stars shall fall from heaven. And then what is he going to do in verse 31?
And he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the 4 winds, from one end of heaven to the other. His
elect are Israel, the children of Israel. Deuteronomy 30. Deuteronomy 30. We're almost done. Deuteronomy 30. Because we're going to be restored. We're going to be restored. But he's always telling us you need to repent. Deuteronomy 30 and verse 1. And when you're there, you can go ahead.
And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse.
We've experienced that short time we were blessed, and these eons, it seems like that we've been cursed. It says, and it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, go ahead,
which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God hath driven thee.
And when you sit in economic depression, when you sit in a jail cell, when you sit wherever you're at, and you come into this knowledge of who you are, see, that's God. You don't know who you are. He's telling you who you are through a book you've been having on your countertop you never even opened. He says, you're going to call it to mind in all those nations. You're going to be here and call it to mind. You're going to be in an African nation and call it to mind. Great Britain, you're going to call it to mind. And shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou with thy children, with all thine heart, and with all thy soul. Then what is this Lord going to do?
And then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity.
Then I'll turn your captivity. You want to be free, turn to me. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion on thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. If any of thine be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee. Verse 5.
And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it. And he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy father.
And we're gonna try, he said, we're gonna try this again. And I'm gonna bring you into that promised land. And he says in verse 6, and the Lord thy God will circumcise thine heart, or the mind, and the heart of thy seed, or in the heart of your children, to love the Lord thy God with all thine heart, and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee, all thine enemies. You have no friends. Verse 8.
And thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Lord, and do all his commandments which I command thee this day.
Go ahead.
And the Lord thy God will make thee plenteous in every work of thine hand, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy land for good. For the Lord will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoiced over thy father.
Planted you a noble vine, and now you're going to bring forth fruits, and now you're going to be prosperous. He's going to joy over us as a people. Jeremiah, the 16th chapter. Jeremiah 16. Jeremiah 16. Jeremiah 16 and verse 14. Because when they talk about the great things that happens to Israel, they talk about the splitting of the Red Sea. No more will they even talk about that. Because there's even a more glorious restoration, a more glorious redemption of a people that still occur. This is Jeremiah 16 and verse 14. When you're there, you can go ahead.
Therefore, behold, the days come, said the Lord, there should no more be said, the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land, that I gave unto their fathers.
That's what they used to say. When your children ask of a certain thing or why a certain thing was done, you tell them, well, this is the Lord, this is what the Lord commanded, and that's the Lord that brought us up out of Egypt. Right? That's no longer going to be said. We're going to say at this time, the Lord liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north and from all the lands whither he had driven them. And I will bring them again into their land that I gave unto their fathers. Go ahead.
Behold, I will send for many fishers, said the Lord, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain and from every hill and out of the holes of the rocks.
The Lord knows who is who, and He's coming to get His. He's coming to get His wherever they're at, scattered abroad. He's coming to get His. Let's keep reading.
Verse 17. For mine eyes are upon all their ways; they are not hid from my face. Neither is their iniquity hid from mine eyes.
I see everything that you do. Go ahead.
And first I will recompense their iniquity, and their sin double.
I'm giving them a double dose for their iniquity. He's omnipresent. He sees all that we've done. He knows our thoughts. He says, at first I will recompense their iniquity and their sin double, because they have defiled my land. They have filled my inheritance with the carcasses of their detestable and abominable things. Verse 19.
O Lord, my strength and my fortune, and my refuge in the day of affliction.
What the Gentiles going to say at this time?
The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth, and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit.
Right. They've inherited the lies of their fathers. It says, Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth. Because they're going to know who God's chosen people, but more importantly, they're going to know who God is. They're going to know that's the one we need to be serving. Because God, He's not just the God of Israel. He created all people to serve Him. He created all people to serve Him. He said, Gentiles, that's why He said Israel is firstborn, indicative of more to come. Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth, and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies. Because they're going to understand at that point salvation is of the Jews, and they're going to understand who the true Jews are. Last place, Isaiah 49. Isaiah 49 and verse 22. Because we spent so long as a servant, so many hundreds of years in servitude among all these people, that time is going to come to an end. See, when you reclaim your history, not his story, you can understand who you are and what you should be doing. And then you can understand what's to come. But if you don't understand history, you don't know where you should be going. This is Isaiah 49 and 22. When you there, go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will lift up mine hand to the Gentiles, and set up my standard to the people. And they shall bring thy sons in their arms, and thy daughters shall be carried upon their shoulders.
So, I've seen pictures of how you had whites in colonized countries, and they are being carried. These are like modern pictures. They being carried by servants of black folks. He said, but at this time, he says, they're going to carry you on their shoulders. 23.
And kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers.
Just like our kings and our princes, our great men and women, our queens, they went into slavery right along with us. But it says their high potentates, if you will, their kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. Go ahead.
They shall bow down to thee with their face toward the earth. Lick up the dust of thy feet, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord.
It's hard to imagine because now they despise you. They don't even want to live next to you. But it says, or me. And it says, and kings shall be thy nursing fathers, and their queens thy nursing mothers. They shall bow down to thee with their face toward the earth, and lick up the dust of thy feet, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. For they shall not be ashamed that wait for me. Verse 24.
Shall the prey be taken from the mighty, the lawful captive delivered? But thus said the Lord, even the captives of the mighty shall be taken away, and the prey of the terrible shall be delivered. For I will contend with him that contended with thee, and I will save thy children.
See, he is our strength. He's the one we should be dependent on. Not you, not any of these leaders, but God. Verse 26.
And I will feed them that oppress thee with their own flesh, and they shall be drunken with their own blood as with sweet wine. And all flesh shall know that I am the Lord, I am thy Savior. And all flesh shall know that I, the Lord, am thy Savior, and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob.
The mighty one of Jacob. And that's reclaiming our history, not his story. I want to thank you for your time. That we're going to stand up, face Jerusalem, and close out.
Our Father which art in heaven,
Our Father which art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name.
hallowed be thy name.
Thy kingdom come,
Thy kingdom come,
thy will be done,
thy will be
on
done,
earth
in earth
as it is in heaven.
as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread.
Give us this day our daily
And
bread,
forgive us our debts,
and forgive us our debts,
we forgive our debtors.
as we forgive our debtors.
And lead us not into temptation,
And lead us not into temptation,
but deliver us from evil.
but deliver us from evil.
Thine is the kingdom,